My name is Matthew Klinsky. Today we're going to talk about fixed versus variable expenses for staffing firms and staffing firm owners. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about what are the differences between the two and how should staffing firms approach fixed versus variable expenses. So first off, what is a fixed expense? A fixed expense is anything you have a contract for. It's typically going to be paid monthly whether you use the service or not, and it's going to be something that you're committed to. Whether your sales go up or down, it's going to remain the same. So in some cases, fixed expenses can be a positive when you can lock in a rate no matter how much you use it or how much your billing goes up or down. Variable expenses, on the other hand, typically are those expenses that go up and down as your revenue goes up and down or as you use it. So for instance, a fixed expense would be rent. That's pretty much of a fixed expense, but the electric bill at the rent might be variable if you pay, the readings. Some office, rent, you just pay a fixed fee for the electricity or it's included in the rent. But the example would be that the rent itself would be fixed and the variable would be how much you're using the electricity or the water at your house or things like that. In the staffing industry, variable expenses are also including people. And so one of the things that staffing firms really struggle with is, in addition to rent and maybe their applicant tracking software is a fixed expense, and then their team, they have a core team that's typically fixed, like a corporate headquarters. Like, what are you paying? Whether the billable hours are up and down, that's your corporate staff. How much of those are fixed and how much of those are commission-based type of sales. So team, I'll just call this salary, but really it's non-commissioned payroll expenses. Other fixed items, might be any commitments from like LinkedIn, or any commitments from, I mentioned ATS or CRM, that's also another one. The variable would be, the commissions from a team commissions. Utilities typically, and then like workers' comp insurance. So you don't have to, you have to prepay workers' comp for the entire year, but at the end of the year, it's an audited policy, which means if you didn't have enough salary, you're actually going to get a refund of the money you paid. So workers' comp would be a variable expense. So the key for a staffing firm, especially going into any type of recession, is that you want to limit or minimize your fixed expenses and transition to a variable-based expense model. And this is challenging if you have a big organization where everybody's expecting fairly large salaries or they're used to large commission checks and they've kind of assumed it's part of their salary type of thing. But it also brings about, what is the minimum billable hours you can do every week to cover your fixed expenses. And so what we're going to talk about is how do you look at those? How do you look at it in terms of your expenses and what revenue you need to bring in? So the first thing to think about is that revenue is a good number. It's a good goal to shoot for, but really you want operational profit. So operational profit oftentimes is the gross profit if you're a traditional staffing firm, or if you're one of our authorized dealers, it's the AD profit. That's your operational profit. And that's, from our standpoint, that's what we pay out to you into your bank account directly. That's the profit you earn for your business. If you're a traditional staffing firm, it's typically called your gross profit. So your operational profit really has to reflect your fixed and your variable on a weekly and a monthly basis. And so the variables to your operational profit, typically one is billable hours. And the second thing is how much money per hour of those billable hours. It's very simple, and you'll be able to calculate. So one of the ways you can do it is you can just literally list the cost for rent. Let's say rent is $2,000. Your ATS is $200 a month. Your salary comes out, your team's salary, let's say on a monthly basis, is 15,000. Your LinkedIn is 1,500. So you literally, whatever it is, you just kind of add it up. So I'm just going to do this real quick so I can give you it as an example. 7, 18. So $18,700 for this made up company. $18,700 per month is what they need to cover for their fixed overhead. So now you take that 1870 and you figure out, okay, what do we think billable hours are, and how much do we typically make on an hourly basis? If you have old data like the last 6 months, I would recommend calculating your hourly profit based per hour. And we give this as that's our standard way of communicating with our authorized dealers, is we give this to you up front. So you're going to know your hourly profit per hour before the assignment even starts. But if you're running a traditional staffing firm, what you really want to know is, what is your operational profit per hour? And for our authorized dealers, right now I think it's almost $8 an hour. And that's the profit that most of our authorized dealers are making. Your number as a staffing firm might be higher, lower. We'll whatever it is, but you know that that's $8 an hour. Now you have to go backwards to figure out how many hours you need to bill on a weekly basis in order to cover your fixed monthly overhead. Now you can see very quickly that everything is dependent on billable hours. What happens if billable hours decreases? Well, you can choose to try to mark up your customers, which isn't going to work, or you can reduce some of these fixed overheads that you have. And sometimes you could maybe suspend a LinkedIn or your ATS, but you really need those for working. And it's really hard to get out of rent contracts. So you're really left with your team's salary. And that's the challenging part in a recession, is that you don't want to go that direction, but sometimes you really have to look at your business. Versus a variable where the variable, like utilities, if you don't go to the office, you might pay a small utilities bill, but that's about it. Workers' comp insurance the same way. If you're not billing those hours, you're going to get that money back. And then commissions, obviously, if there's no money. So for this case, I don't have a calculator, but you could easily calculate how many billable hours you need in a month, and then you divide by billable hours per week, and that's really what your new sales goal is, to break even from that standpoint. Now, the advantage of our authorized dealers is that they're completely a variable expense for their operation, meaning they don't have to pay for a payroll processor, an accounts receivable manager, operations supervisor. All of those people are on the USA team, and our authorized dealers only pay a service fee when they use our services. And so it's kind of like that ultimate outsourced operational partner where you can, when the profit is distributed to our authorized dealers, that is what they just have to live off of from a business standpoint. But all of those fixed overheads, like they don't have to worry about paying for the payroll of our payroll processor. A lot of our authorized dealers operate out of their home or a small remote office. So their fixed overheads are really low. So it really allows them to maximize their profit overall. But in general, during recessions, the key is to really look at these fixed expenses, maximize your variable expenses, renegotiate some contracts, and ultimately survive and then thrive. And so our goal as USA Staffing is to help you do this. Survive first, thrive second. We're going to make it through this 2020. We need your help. If you need our help, we're here to help you. And we're always looking forward to working with you. So I look forward to talking with you later. Thanks.